welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Haley and you're watching Between the Pages. It is that time, finally, and we're going to talk about Broken by Daylight by Elizabeth Helen. This is book 4 in the Beast of the Briar series, and I've currently read all of the ones that have currently been published. It is now the 5th of April, so I have like 2 more weeks until Frozen by Stardust comes out. So slowly dying inside. Just kidding, but I am really looking forward to book 5. But yeah, now we're just going to talk about this one. You know it's going to be long, so buckle in, grab a drink, grab a snack, whatever you want. And now we're just going to fangirl for the next 20 to 30 minutes. So it starts off, this book starts off with Dayton and Renly are in the Summer Realm, basically like trying to figure out how to defeat Chiron. We don't have Farron, so it starts off with like, I'm like, where is Farron? So Farron has been in his wolf form for weeks trying to get to autumn, because I think he has to go through summer and I think part of spring, or he has to go like around spring, like into autumn. I don't remember what the map looks like. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but it's not like Prithian where they're like all stacked on top of each other. They're kind of like in a wheel almost with Castle Tree at the center, but I don't remember what the wheel looks like. And at one point, I believe that Rosalina is being held captive by Chiron in like this underwater prison. And so she is sitting there and Chiron is like in her face, like screaming questions at her, and she's like not responding at all. She's basically catatonic, like stuck in her own mind, trying to like not say anything to Chiron. And then she sees this girl out in the distance and is like slowly swimming towards her. And it's Delphi, which is Dayton's little sister. And I love her. And then we also get to meet Nori, which is Farron's little sister, who is like a ward of Summer. And I love her because she's like monotoned and she's very blunt and she likes dead and macabre things. And I just adore her for it because she's hilarious. Definitely want more of Nori. And then at one point, they're on a boat. They're on like Delphi and Nori's boat. And Dayton is like yelling out commands like a ship captain, and he's like in his element. And I was like, I love this Dayton, like this confident Dayton, because we haven't seen him in quite a while, especially with everything going on in the universe, or in this universe at least. And I was like, I love this Dayton. He is just like carefree and everything. And then I was like, I bet Renly is still working with Chiron and is fooling Dayton. She is. Just, I don't know if I mention it, but if I don't mention it by the end of the review, I probably will. But now I know who Renly is. So we'll get there. And then also, I love this new Ezran. Like, I do love the chivalrous, like, knight-like Ezran, but I also kind of like Prince of the Blood. Or Prince of Blood, I think is what like the realms are calling him, because he just like slaughters first, asks questions later. And then there is, at one point they send Ezran to basically look after Delphi and Nori while they go look for these, like, I want to call them Valkyries because they really seem like Valkyries from ACOTAR, where they're basically like a society of women that like live together and are warriors and things like that. And they have Pegasuses, so again, like ACOTAR. But I love that because I'm like, this poor guy has been through hell. He's lost the blessing of spring. He has lost his pointy ears. His brother wants to kill him. And now he has to go chaperone these 2 teenagers and take them into basically the desert to find these warriors that may or may not exist. And he has to deal with that. And I was like, oh God, poor Ezran. Ezran just needs to get a break. Please. I just want him to be happy. And then at one point, When Rosalina finds out that Renly and Dayton are mates, she loses it. Like, she breaks down, and like her magic ends up destroying the summer wing of Castle Tree. And I was like, but if she's the queen's daughter and the queen is the one who created Castle Tree, why can't she just rebuild the summer wing? I have questions and they were not answered. I think she even like asks that at one point, and Keldarian is like, there's literally nothing we can do. I was like, but she's the queen's daughter and the queen created Castle Tree, so why couldn't she just like harness her magic and fix it? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out in later books, but currently she cannot fix it. And then there's also this thing that like Renly will not let Rosalina touch her, and I thought it had something to do with like the whole her and Dayton not really being mates thing. It's not really explained. I guess it kind of is explained like in a roundabout way, but it's not explicitly stated, because she's wearing a shell around her neck that has the Deceiver's Bloom in it, or the Friar's Lantern, which is the flower that can make people believe that their mate is at the end of it. So she's wearing that to basically like fool Dayton. Like, that's how she did it. And I was like, it basically, like I said, and I think my Forged by Malice review, I said that it was a Chekhov's gun and I was waiting for it to go off. So it doesn't go off until like 75% into the book. But I was like, they keep giving you hints towards it. So I'm like, okay, I understand. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Elizabeth Helen, but still. And then at one point, they are on a boat again, because they're in the summer realm, and Rosalina is thrown overboard. So Dayton jumps off to go save her, and Renly is like left on the boat without Dayton. And I was like, God, finally, Dayton and Rosalina are alone, which I'm like, I need them to be alone. I need them to get away from Renly, because I don't know what's going on with her, but I do not like her. So I was happy that they were finally alone. And then in my Forged by Malice review, I did say that I'm pretty sure Renly's is Rosalina's sister. Either that or it's the Nightingale. The Nightingale and Renly are the same character. And I mean, it makes sense, because even Rosalina says, well, she's never seen Renly and the Nightingale in the same room together. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. But at one point I was like, I'm 90% sure it's the Nightingale. It was, but Renly is the Nightingale. So didn't really see that. And then at one point I was like, great, Renly's back. Yay. Hate her. I hate Renly so much. Which makes sense, because I don't like the Nightingale either. And they're the same character. And then at one point, Chiron auctions off Rosalina and Dayton like separately to like spend the night with people, with fae, courtiers, people who are in the summer realm. And a disguised Astrid ends up like telling Chiron that her master has like basically bid as much as he could for Rosalina, and you find out that it's Caspian. And I was like, yep, Caspian, here to save the day, as always. And there's sexy time, so obviously. And then at one point I was like, I really need the Nightingale / Renly to shut the fuck up. I was like, I don't care what you have to say. I don't want to hear your villain monologue, because at one point she's villain monologuing while Rosalina has to watch Dayton basically get his ass kicked in the arena because he got drunk, because he thinks that Rosalina left and isn't going to come back, because she was supposed to go to Castle Tree for the night that he was going to consummate his mating bond with Renly. And so he thought, oh, she's mad at me, she's never coming back. So basically he gets drunk the night before his big final fight in the arena. And basically Rosalina is trapped like in a tower, basically watching him get his ass kicked and like almost die. And Renly is Renly slash the Nightingale is villain monologuing. And I was just like, please shut up. I don't care what you have to say. And then at one point they end up flooding the arena, and I was like, why do I feel bad for Chiron? Because at one point he's pinned under like a bunch of rubble and is like basically like, I'm going to die. So he gives her the blessing of spring and is like, please give it to someone who is worthy of it. I don't know if she's gonna give it back to Ezra or if she's gonna keep it. I don't know. Haven't figured it out yet. And then 600 pages, and I was like, all I have to say is, finally. They finally consummate their mating bond, which means now she is mated to 4 of the 5 princes. And I'm fairly certain, I mean, this next one is about Keldarian, and then the 6th one is about Caspian, and then the 7th one is like the one that ties everything together and like ties up all the loose ends. So finally, she hasn't consummated her mate bond with Keldarian yet. I'm hoping that's what happens in book 5, because that's what the pattern would suggest, at least. And then at one point, Keldarian, Farron, Caspian, and Rosalina's father are in the below, like trying to free Queen Aurelia. And Keldarian kind of goes off on Queen Aurelia about like all the shit that she's put them through. And I was like, Keldarian, maybe you don't want to piss off your future mother-in-law, because like you're gonna have to deal with her, especially if you end up breaking her out of prison and she ends up, you know, living happily ever after with Rosalina's father. I was like, maybe you don't want to piss off your future mother-in-law. Just saying, just an idea. And then also Aurelia explains everything to Keldarian and Rosalina's father, but she doesn't explain the whole 2 daughters thing until like they end up busting the prison open, but she doesn't leave with them, because if she leaves with them, then Sierra will take Rosalina instead. And so I was like, she doesn't mention it until everything's going to shit, and she's like, oh yeah, we have another daughter, George, like please protect her, before Keldarian and George like leave the below. And I was like, why wouldn't you mention that in your story, like explaining everything? Like, you're just gonna mention it in passing when they're leaving? That makes no sense. And then also, I have a question. So how does Rosalina feel about the fact that Dayton almost slept with her sister? I'm just saying, because before we knew that Renly was Rosalina's sister, like he was going to consummate his mating bond with Renly, but like both of them couldn't go through with it because Renly is in love with Chiron and Dayton is in love with Rosalina. And I was like, I feel like we need to discuss this. I feel like y'all need to have a conversation. And then Sierra basically has this mind control thing over Renly, and she tells Renly to basically shoot Dayton with the bow of radiance and ends up killing Dayton. Like, Dayton's dead. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, they just got together. Can we stop torturing Dayton, please? But then Farron ends up coming, and he has accepted the green flame, which is what was happening on Caspian and Farron's little side quest. So instead of Caspian accepting the green flame, now Farron has the green flame, which, if you remember from Woven by Gold, is what gave Quellos the power to bring back people from the dead. So he basically uses the green flame to bring Dayton back to life. So now I'm worried, like, if Farron ever gets rid of the green flame, is Dayton gonna die again? Or will his body be like healed by the time that he takes it away? Because we still have to deal with that. So I'm curious to see what conversation happens in the 5th book regarding all of that and everything. And I was just like, I just need to have faith that in the end, Elizabeth and Helen is going to fix everything and everyone's going to live a happily ever after and not be dead or dying or injured or maimed or anything. But yeah, that was my rambly review for Broken by Daylight by Elizabeth Helen, and I will see you guys later. Bye!